Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads, and especially all you gardeners out there? This is Mr. Weedman and Big Earl with the Grow Hour. Big Earl, my brother, how the hell are you?
I'm doing good, dude. I appreciate you. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. You want to know why?
Why?
Because I'm going to get baked with Big Earl and my new friend, Captain Stubing. How you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm great, man. How are you guys doing?
I love it. Love it. Love it.
Good.
And I'm stoked because you actually are Captain Stubing is your name we're calling you, but you are Seattle Chronic Seeds.
Correct.
Love it. Love it. And we're going to get into your story here in a second. But before we get started, we're going to get baked. And I'm smoking Blueberry Sangria. And I'm so bummed that I didn't grab that CBD strain that came from you, Captain Stubing, that Big Earl grew. What is that strain called, Big Earl?
The Honolulu Haze Cross. We took it to F2 last year and crossed it to a little bit of THC pollen, luckily.
Dude, I smoked that on Saturday. I was melting. So well done to the both of you. Not head, body. Just all 90% body. Just melting. Big Earl, what are you smoking on, brother?
Nightmare OG. I finally harvested some more a little bit ago. I haven't really been able to put it down. Man, I love it.
You bought some to his house on Friday, and I haven't tried it yet, but I remember the last strain that you grew was absolutely phenomenal. Captain Stubing, you smoked before we started,
Yes,
and you
sir.
were doing some bong rips. What were you smoking, my friend?
So I started off with Pure Kush crossed with Melvins, which is in-house grown, created, everything. And then a little bit of the Boz. And the Boz is another in-house strain that I created and cultivated myself.
Nice.
What's the if you don't mind me asking, what's the profile, the flavor profile? Like, what do you get from it when you smoke it?
Oh man, so the Boz is Bicodo OG and Melvin, so it's GMO kind of heavy with cherry pie sweetness and then a little bit of like Z to it, like a little Skittles kind of funk to it. But it's just kind of more unique. It's just really raunchy for the most part. I mean, it's kind of raunchy and sweet on the back end. And then the Pure Kush is more kind of like a lime sweetness, like uplifting and something I just kind of smoke on all day. And then when I kind of go for a nightcap, I switch over to the Boz.
Gotcha. Nice. I love it. I've never smoked either one, but I love to learn about new strains because if I ever catch it, then I know what I'm looking for. So I appreciate the knowledge on that. So, you ready to get started? Let's get started with this show. So a little history about Seattle Chronic Seeds. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who the fuck are you? Who is Captain Stubing? I know who Captain Stubing is from back when I was growing up. The Love Boat.
Thank you, man. That's awesome that you can actually recognize that because nowadays it's kind of lost in translation for the most part.
I can get Mrs. Weedman down here, and she could probably sing the song with me.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you didn't like Isaac, the bartender, and Gopher, what kind of person are you? They were the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us about yourself, though. Tell us how you got started. Tell us, just give us some history because you've been in this for a long time now. And we were talking before we started recording a little bit. And, tell me about yourself. I want to learn more.
So I started out as a young buck, just kind of, moving bags around, looking for the best thing possible. That led to, kind of finding seeds, cultivating closets. And then in my 20s, I kind of started taking on bigger projects with people who were in the game for, a long time. And they were starting to get ill. And so I was kind of caretaking gardens and learning the ropes, just being told what to do. And that kind of led towards my late 20s, early 30s. Really just diving into breeding and just because I started to delve into a bunch of problems myself, and so looking for medical strains that I wasn't able to find on the market in Washington, up in Seattle, I just started trying to create more one-to-ones and figuring out how to, lock down traits and things of that nature. And just started off with a super sour CBD is the project. And I think I'm on like F9 or something now. But in the F1 generation, it was just really trying to figure out, how am I going to find these with sour in this, and then growing my first male out, and then, there were a few of them, and trying to figure out selection, and then slowly kind of figuring out after time, how males worked with the breeding process, and just basically how things translated over time. And then I started to see different cannabinoids and how they worked medically. And I just started running and trying to isolate them and do things that other people weren't really, everyone was kind of on the money train for a long time. And it was kind of a hard path, in all honesty, because there wasn't a ton of money behind it. And so a lot of it was self-funded. And it's like, um, I just started diving into cannabinoids and like research and trying to figure out things that, huge technology firms eventually started to jump into. And, now it's super easy, in all honesty, with different like genomic technology, the way that things are. It's breeding's become a lot of of a different aspect and a different game in the recent years. But it's like in my 30s, I just really, that's all I did. I just went through and I went and I created as many seeds, and then I popped as many, and I selected, and I just got to know the plants in general. Like sick, poor, what they went through for, pest resistance, like it just different things that other people weren't necessarily looking for in breeding. And so I just tried to set myself apart by doing, different things that I felt were appropriate to the community, more so than to, the corporate world. But now it's just kind of blending in all together.
I think a lot of that is what stood out to me early when I saw you.
Yeah, and that CBD strain, when the girl told me that was from you, and I smoked it the other day, man, I was kudos, because you don't find that good of CBD ratio smoke like that. So I gave some to my niece tonight. It was her 21st birthday. She stopped by. I said, I know you're coming by for the regular weed, but you need to try this. She's like, seriously? I'm like, no, you need to feel this, touch this, kiss it, roll it up, and smoke it, because it's that fucking good. She's like, come on now. I'm like, I'm your uncle. Okay. I'm not gonna tell you wrong. Just tell me what you think about it when you're ready, because I'm telling you right now, you're gonna lay down, and you're not gonna want to move, and body's gonna be so relaxed and so pain free, because I'm part of the Bad Back Club. I was pain free. Like, I tweak if I move certain ways, and I was like, if I am I actually hurt? No, I felt good, but I was clear up here. So I was thinking that ratio, Earl, might have been like a 4-to-1, because I was totally able to function in the brain. I mean, I was a little heady, but not like you normally smoke like I am now. I was neck down, baby. And that's what I love. I love the neck down. I mean, you could just feel like I want to be mush at night. So well done, my friend. Well done. I have to give kudos to that one. And well done, Big Earl, to take his genetics and grow it the way you did. I fucking love it.
Yeah, hats off always to the cultivator.
I mean, it was good stuff. So the last episode with Scapegoat, we went over some things to know before making your own seeds. Now we're going to get to a little bit into the meat and potatoes. And that's like, now we're going to go over actually making the seeds. We gave you kind of like the little lift. Now Captain Stubing here is going to take you on the cruise ship to the ocean now.
Yeah, and we did in another we had another breeding episode, and we kind of talked about some of the physical parts, but one thing that we really wanted to talk about was when you're starting this project, do you go into it differently than starting, like, for sure a production, but let's say, a breeding project, compared to just like a normal room or hunt? What do you change up there?
Well, a lot of the time you're not like, filling tables up like you would for breeding. Like, basically, when you're doing a production run, you're trying to, maximize canopy space, and with breeding, it's kind of more so just trying to maximize seed count. So a lot of time I tend to have a bunch of different plants into one location versus, having, all just one, two things per table. Put like, I don't know, 8 or 9 different cultivars that kind of have undergone vigorous training, stress testing, and then once they kind of pass things, I throw them into flower. Um, a few times, second run, I tend to pollinate them. So there's a difference in terms of like production and then just breeding, like, and then also isolating using different males. So, I mean, you can't physically put a bunch of different males in one room and expect it's going to be a huge mess. Like everything's just going to pollinate everything, and you're going to have, you know, basically like a giant disaster. And so you kind of have to isolate things, and that's where like pulling the males out and then pulling different females out and not having like huge production rooms set up for it. That's why giant rooms are generally for production. You want to use kind of a smaller space that's fit for as many plants that you want to use, but you're not going to want to have too much excess pollen drift, especially if you do have a facility of things nearby where that drift will go into your production runs and then influence things, which you don't, you want to avoid that at all costs. And so it's kind of your bread and butter. So a lot of times you just want to isolate things and have smaller areas for pollination. But I mean, there's people that do it in greenhouses, people that pull males and, do larger runs in greenhouses. Some people do it outdoors, which I've done as well. It's just you have to be aware of, the area, the wind speed, like is it going to contaminate or hurt somebody else's farm, and be aware of that issue as well. And so um, I like to do it indoor and just kind of in a smaller space and area where I can take a specific male, pair it to the females that I've chosen for that male, through different means, and then use those to make seeds. And then with males, that's kind of a whole different process as well. So it's like a lot of time when I kind of grow everything out from seed, I will take, I'll do basically a quick check on everything. And so instead of, if you don't have the means or ability to use DNA testing or the funding to, you can just kind of wait until, seventh or ninth node on the plant, flip it, and then just kind of check everything. And then once you start to get balls on all the little males, pull everything out. If you get, hairs or whatever, start to pull those into the female pile, pull them out, put them back under the racks to re-veg really quick, because the least amount of time under that, they'll react quickly. And then basically I move the males to a different area to grow them out, isolate them, and then kind of do a check on everything there. I clone those, put those through a separate, clone area, and then generally have all my males backed up. And then whatever I use from that, I'll have copies of if I need to reproduce seeds as well.
Yeah.
Damn.
Nice, dude. That was thorough.
That's not easy.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's not fucking easy. I'm baked right now, and I'm listening to that going, woo. You need that CBD strain, man. Now I know how you do it, though. You got mental clarity, but you're fucking feeling good in the body, so you can stay straight. I like it. Good stuff.
Oh, so do you trim your males up the same as your females? Do you like to, get them lollipop, take them up to same kind of topping, or you like to
I just let them go. I just top them once, like for the initial cloning and backup, and then if you do grow them again, then you can kind of do whatever you want to. But I mean, in all honesty, if you're just going for pollen, you don't necessarily need to have a bunch of tops. I mean, the more that you have, the more it's going to produce for sure. And the same goes with seed production. So it's like, if you're running specific plants and veg, as many tops as you can physically run on them, that's as many, it's going to allow more seed production as well. And so that's another aspect is in veg, you know, top as much as you can, get at least 4 to 8 different colas set up to where you can get a little more seeds inside of everything. And then that in itself will kind of, lead to a little bit more production.
Yeah, I found too when you can get that top a little bit more, they're more mature. I don't get as many of the lighter colors or the immature seeds when they can all be up top a little bit more than if I like let it fill in down below more. Do you like to let your plants run longer? I know some people, a 9-week finisher. Do you like to let it run 10, 11 and get those extra seeds finished up, or what do you feel about that?
I mean, it all depends. Like, usually I just let things go about 5 weeks after pollination, maybe 6 tops. So it's like I'll pollinate it maybe 2 weeks, 2.5. I'll do one at 2 weeks, 2.5, and then maybe another pollination at 3. And then I pull them at like, 8 tops. It's just, I look for most, I'll kind of do pluck checks. And then whenever I get a few that are just completely mature, I'll just pull the plants. I mean, you're going to get immature seeds. I don't, wait for another 2 weeks when I have to rotate things. Like, I already have, a few too many plants backed up ready to go, so I got to get moving. I'm on schedule. It's like I got 8-9 weeks to move these, and it's like the maturity of those is what it is what it is. It's like, I guess I could do that, probably get maybe 100 more seeds in the process. I've tried it, but it just wasn't worth the time.
Sure.
In my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just people have said, or like flipping back to veg. I've heard people talk about too. Like you can, knock them up and give them a couple more weeks in flower, and then flip them back to veg. So it's just always nice to hear people, especially with your kind of experience, kind of what you feel about that. And putting the male in there that early too. I've heard people talk about waiting a little bit, but I've always personally kind of liked to let the male do its thing. Honestly, like maybe a little bit later than my female, but I like that. It makes a lot of sense to me, at least.
Yeah. No,
Well, what
I
about
like to separate things, especially with femmes.
Yeah, yeah, nice. Um, yeah, damn, dude, you answered all my questions. We're down to to boot now. Um,
Cutting and drying seeded plants. How do you go from there? That's a big Earl question, just so you all know out there. That's a big Earl question, not a Mr. Weedman question, because I didn't know that for shit.
There's a few different ways you can go about it, and like, I mean, there's like the quick dry. If you don't necessarily need, because a lot of times, I mean, if you're doing like a large amount and you just have to hang them in a barn or something like that, then it's a different story. But if you're doing like, a small indoor run where you have, let's say 30 to 50 plants or something like that. Generally, you'll want to just kind of hang them and dry them, cure them as you would normal plants. I tend to keep them like 60 to 65 temperature, humidity for, anywhere from 14 to 21 days. And usually seeds take about 21 days to kind of, ripen after the process and just develop fully. And so it's like, a lot of times I'll just wait till everything's dry, break them up, throw them into a bag, leave them out at room temperature, a little below, kind of in a cool closet somewhere for maybe a few weeks as well. And then I just kind of put them into storage after that. But I let seeds cure. I do. I mean, a lot of times if you just go directly and go 3 weeks, they'll work, but germination rates tend to go a little bit better if you just let them breathe for a little bit after they've been plucked.
I did not know that at all. That's awesome. Thank you for that.
so you like to dry them the 2 to 3 weeks, and then give them another 3 weeks to cure, kind of as a seed, before you let them like make them available.
Yeah, I would say 4 to 6 is an average for sure. I would say 6 weeks is kind of a consistent number that I would stay with, but. I mean, some things that are area or whatever, like hashers or things that are kind of spaced, the internodal spacing is kind of spaced apart, and you get, more seed, they dry quicker. You can kind of take those a little bit quicker where you go, 4.5 or something like that. But a lot of time I would just say 6 weeks is kind of the average. I go, 3 on dry and then 3 on cure.
Nice. Yeah. Beautiful.
Sweet.
Any other tips or tricks like that? Like, because I'd always heard, I never heard a time on curing. I'd always heard people, hey, give them some time, and mine have a while anyway. But any other tips or tricks you think some people might be getting wrong out there?
I think like the whole refrigerating and freezing process, just making sure, I mean, making sure you have them in a nice, cool area is kind of what I found. You'll keep them for a few years if you're going for long-term storage, like a nice, I mean, a nice, cool area, like super cool if you have like a lettuce compartment or something like that that you can keep aerated as well, where it doesn't freeze over and then kind of freeze back. You can keep seeds in there for a longer period. I would say like, 3 years, but like freezer, I mean, if you do that, you usually have to use gibberellaric acid or like, a kidney bean sprout tea or something to kind of rejuvenate. It seems like the frozen seedlings, like I've had terrible luck with them where I've had, heard other people that have said, oh, it works pretty well, but I've never really frozen my seeds. Like the ones that I have never really came back to life. I've gotten like, 10 to 30% or something stupid.
Yeah. I got into embryo rescue a little bit because of that, and it sounds way fancier than it is. But I was finding some of these older seeds that I was really excited about. I wasn't getting a good germination rate. And so I was like, man, I gotta, and so just like being able to get it under a microscope and kind of like open it up and see the embryo and know that the
Yep.
embryo is actually viable before even popping, because that answers so many questions right there. You pop this pack you've been geeked
Yep.
about for 10 years. But so germinating farther down the road, do you think that's it? The atmosphere, you freeze them, and that's gonna be your best viability in 10 years, kind of thing.
I mean, unless you get into like cryogenic freezing or, things like that, then I mean, in all honesty, that's probably it. Like, I mean, most vegetable seeds and things of that nature can kind of keep for around the same time. So, I mean, your
Yeah,
germination rates do. I have seeds that are 8 to 10 years now that I've popped and still get, 70 to 80% rates on, like, high 70s at least. So it's not terrible, but I mean, they've been through, 100+ degree weather and stuff. So they've had some germination influences, but it's like, I mean, as long as you keep them in the right conditions for a long period of time, I mean, they'll keep for a long, um, yeah.
nice. Yeah, I mean that says something about your seeds. That they're means they're real strong. Um, that's what I would think, at least.
Good genetics. Good
Yeah,
genetics.
yeah, buddy.
Good
I
male,
also
Okay,
good
so
think
that
female.
probiotic seeds. Yeah, I think doing that style of living soil, it just kind of creates these fat, gnarly seeds that have this thick casing that I don't know. It just keeps the embryo alive for a long period of time, and then you have like, I guess you'd call them like biointelligent seeds that when you use them in a similar medium, they just take off like rocket fuel. I mean, it's like they're primed and ready to go. It seems like the way to kind of produce seeds versus like using, conventional cocoa or just rock wool. Like generally when I've done those seeds, they're good, but it seems like I get, more inconsistencies versus like living soil seeds. I tend to get some robust genetics out of those.
yeah, dude, that makes a
Excuse
ton
me.
of sense because when we did our hemp outside compared to just adding organics inside, adding the organics for me, I definitely saw like what I would see like a more healthy seed. But then I saw the hemp outside, and it was like, wow, these are fat and juicy, and and it was all almost all you or you and Hoku stuff. It was all living organics type, blood meal, oyster shell kind of additives only. I mean, there were a ton of additives, but that's awesome. People don't talk about that very much. How you make your seeds like organically versus synthetically. I don't think, but there's definitely something there.
No, I agree. I completely do. I mean, I've done it and kind of seen some results through it. That's kind of why I leave, kind of the breeding to the living soil stuff.
Yeah.
What do you use, if you don't mind me asking, living soil?
So I use Bio 365 as a base, and then generally I just kind of build off of it with you know, I usually have pests and stuff out of, well, not pests, but like mites and other things that I'll kind of add throughout the cycle, cover crops, and then just like a few different teas blends that I've come up with. I do a lot of KNF stuff as well, so like ferments, but it's basically like incorporating the ferments into some of the feedings and then having pretty much all your minerals, nutrient levels optimal in the soil already from the get-go. Um, I do, you know, re-amend things as well. You kind of have to after every run and try to have things tested. But
Yeah. Have you been able to find like a every year you can kind of go back, like where you're getting to the point you can know, oh, I grow in this area like this. I'm gonna have to reinoculate with a pound of this, a pound of that, a pound of this, or whatever it is per area. Have you ever been able to put that together yet, or is it just kind of change every year?
I mean, because it's like you're running so many different, if you're running the same genetics, I think it'd be pretty guessable. But when you have things that are, you know, so variable, you never know what's sucking what out of what side, and like the nutrient levels always vary. So it's like you constantly have to have things tested. I kind of have a, you know, general outline as to what I add, but I have to have certain things added at different times when certain plants require more.
Yeah. And when you do that, you just take soil samples and like multiple soil samples from the area, mix them together, send them into the local or whatever company you use, and they send back like, "Hey, you have this much, available." Do they tell you what's available, or do they tell you just what's in there?
No, basically it's like what's available and what isn't, or what's
Right.
declining, what your rates are. Like, yeah, what's been, you know, for a lot of times they'll have soil samples on file, and so they'll tell you kind of what you've used from last time, and then just give you a quick recommendation for what you need to add.
That's cool. That's pretty cool. I've never done that before. I would like to.
So I got a quick question. I'm a small breeder. I'm a small grower in my basement. Got a small little tent, right? Little basement grow. But I want to kind of step it up a little bit and start doing a little seed runs for myself. Smaller indoor breeding project and growing in the same time in the basement though. What advice would you give somebody like myself or a newer grower that wants to start making their own seeds in their basement grow? Nothing too big, crazy, but what would they need to do?
So first thing would be grabbing a few different tents and you know, a few different lights, probably a racking system or two, and then some small LED lights for the racks, just to kind of back things up and keep the small veg space of things where you have to separate. But you're going to want a few different tents to where you can separate the different things you want to breed. Males are going to be enclosed and shut away from the other things that you want to flower and have no seeds in. And then you generally want to have them as far away as possible. If they do pollinate, make sure the tents like go in there, close it up, shake the male, and then kind of spray things off with water, yourself included, before you step back out of the tent. And then from there, I would just, yeah, just make sure that you have enough to pay for the extra electricity, lights, and supplies.
Explain to all the newbie people out there, what does water do to pollen?
So basically, it just, I mean, shuts it off. I mean, it stops it from moving around and contaminating anything else.
Yeah.
I learned that from Big Earl.
Oh
Now
man.
everybody out there is going to learn that from Captain Stubing. I love it. So make sure you're cleaning yourself off really well before you go back to your flower tent, because you could have some pollen on you, and that one little piece of pollen can go on your plant, and you could have some seedy bud, right?
Yeah, that's for, yeah. Get naked.
Go
Yeah.
jump in the shower.
Yeah.
Lots of spray bottles of water.
So the newbie breeder just starting out, they need to be careful with pollen though too, right? If they're not used to like that pollen in that tent, they should they like not breathe that in, right?
Yeah, I
4 or
mean,
5 males in there and they're shaking that shit around like a fucking bunko bronco. You know what I'm saying? They gotta be careful not to breathe that in, right?
I know some people that don't have a problem with it, but myself, like, I need to have a full-on respirator mask and a Tyvek suit, and like, I mean, I can't touch that stuff or I start like hyperventilating and sneezing and like my eyes swell up and water. And so it's like over time that stuff is super gnarly. But
Yeah.
I know people that just get in there with a male and like, just dust the shit out of stuff, no problem. They don't have any issues with it.
There you go. But there is some protective gear you should wear.
I do. I mean, I wear a mask to where I feel like that's kind of a necessity just to not breathe it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some people should wear protective gear while they're doing it though, just in case, especially if you're not used to
I mean, if you want to experiment and try and test the waters, go for it, but I don't recommend it.
There you go. There you go.
I reach my arm in. I don't even. I just reach my arm in there, give it a little wiggle. Sometimes I'll tie a string
Okay,
around it and pull it
okay,
to the
and
outside of the
shut it.
tent. Give it a little wiggle. I don't even fuck with it.
No, yeah. I've had to move them a few times, and even like my wife's starting to get affected by it a lot now too. It's like over time, like yeah, it just doesn't mess with anybody, and then all of a sudden it's like, nope, don't put those out here. Like, don't keep those away from me. They really do start to affect you after a long time.
Yeah. So
Well, thank you for
one
the info on that.
one thing I think that I know I appreciate about you the most is that you advance characteristics and lineage very purposefully. And so every time I hear about a cannabinoid, usually I hear about a cannabinoid for the first time, and then I can go to your page and be like, oh, he's already got a 1% plant of this, or like I haven't heard about it, and you've already been breeding with it and working with it. And so when you're advancing characteristics, is it, as I don't want to say as simple, but is it just following that through the plant and saying, okay, I popped 100 of these and there, this one's got the best or the most, or is there something deeper that you do there to make sure that something takes that to that next generation?
So that's kind of where analytical data comes into play. It's like before it was all reliant on how the plant translated in the end product, and now it's like we have data that basically tells us what the best plants are. And so I try to mix both scenarios, but I still like to go with like my gut instinct on things just because it's kind of worked for me through the early days of breeding where I feel like my best work kind of started to come out of was just through my heart and like really kind of looking at the plant that way. And so that's what I tend to do more so than you know focus on. For a long time, I was trying to really dive down that rabbit hole, and I think it's a huge place, especially in breeding. It makes things a lot easier for sure, but. I feel like there's a lot to actually looking through the plant and knowing like how it's going to hold up in different scenarios and environments and like just kind of beating the shit out of it and seeing like even after it's gone through everything, will the average person be able to grow this out and still love it? And like then I can hand it to somebody who's talented and advanced, and they're going to say like this is the shit. Like it's just one of those
Yeah.
things that kind of carries through everybody. I mean, for the most part.
Yeah. That's huge. I mean, that's huge because everybody grows so differently. The HPS grower and the small tent versus LED grower in a big room is so different. So doing that is a huge justice to everybody who buys your seeds. That's why I call myself a pollen chucker, dude. And sometimes it offends people because I use the word pollen chucker, but like I don't do that shit. I find shit I like. I put it together. If what I hunt out of that is good, then I make it available. And that's, I'm not doing that. And so that's what, like, to me, the difference between a breeder and a pollen chucker is the breeder has that intention of progression, and so I definitely appreciate it a lot. Uh, I got a question for you personally because I can't fucking figure it out. Pollinate, like single branch pollination. I've tried to do some single branch pollination in my flowering room. bro, I can't get away from it without having somebody bitch about finding a seed or two, somewhere I didn't want it. Have you ever been able to do that? Like one fucking branch in a whole room of flower?
Yeah. So the key is static pollination. Put it into like a Ziploc gallon bag, put your pollen in there, shake it in there, put it on the branch, and then seal it on the branches you want pollinated. Um, Something about the static or whatever cling that happens with the hairs and the pistils basically allows all the pollen to just be sucked to it, and so you just leave it in there. Don't really just kind of move it hands back and forth on it. Pull it off as gently as possible. Again, just water as much as you can. But a lot of times I've been pretty successful with that method.
Nice. I am definitely gonna have try to. I tried the bag. I haven't tried like actually statically charging it, if that's what you'd call it. And now thinking about that, I think maybe I put too much pollen in the bag, trying to like you just want it covering the walls. You don't want like an excess little dust puddle in your corner or anything of the bag.
I mean, you can have a little bit to where it ruffles but you just need to make sure that you seal it if you are kind of even ruffling it when you do. Always
Yeah.
make sure to just get like a friction on everything.
Fuck yeah. Man, I'm so scared to try it again, but I think I might. I don't know.
I've done multiple different seeds on different, plants that have come out to be completely different. So I know it works.
Yeah.
I've done it on also kind of larger plants where I've taken big turkey bags with pollen and tied them on it and shooken them and then had to move them back in a room that has a ton of other stuff. So, I mean, it's all about just making sure that your pollen takes onto the plant and then you basically sterilize yourself from the plant back before you move it back in, like you don't have any excess pollen.
Oh, there. So you moved it out of the room. So I didn't even think about like not trellising because everything in my room I trellis. I just have a little room and it's just so much easier for me. But
Oh, I do too, man. Trust me. A lot of time before I do in veg, I'll kind of start them in the first week, second week before they're really stretching and I'll kind of start pulling them at week 2, and then after that immediately I use kind of these rubbery trellises where I can just slop them on and you know press them against
yeah,
the canopy because they're already pretty much topped and ready to go for the most part. So.
wow, that's yeah, that makes sense.
What do you got coming up next that you're excited about?
Well, I'm just kind of doing a lot of pheno hunting right now, honestly. So, I mean, I did a lot of breeding throughout these past, 2 years that I've done a bunch of variant work. THCV stuff has been my primary focus, and now I'm kind of stepping back into THC dominant stuff, just kind of more old school mixed with new school, kind of my style on THC stuff, and so just hunting through all the gear that I've been holding on to for the past, I don't know how long, but I'm spending time cultivating and not worrying about breeding. I'm doing some weird reversal projects, but um, yeah, I don't really have a ton of seed stuff other than stuff I've kind of made for the past you know, I'd say year. But most of it I'm hunting through at this point.
Yeah,
Sweet. What do you enjoy about hunting? I mean, I know Big Earl, he loves hunting. What do you like
yeah,
about it?
It's just finding different terp profiles. Honestly, it's finding something that shines in, I guess, not only in cultivation, but it finishes well, and then I guess showing your friends and having something that's completely different or something that's uh, just it means a lot to you, and so showing things that you've created and put through the whole process and then you have sitting in jars on your shelf that you can kind of pass along.
I
yeah.
love passing along stuff to people that I grow and stuff I get from Big Earl. It's nothing better. I've been saying this a lot lately. I'm not the weed man because I can smoke more weed than anybody. I'm the weed man because I like giving weed to people, and I always got weed on me. That's why we're all weed men on this. All three of us are. We like giving away our weed to people because it makes me happy watching them smoke it and enjoy the fuck out of it. I love it. I love it. So, but here, before we close out, I'm super stoked because Big Earl, 4 years ago when I met Big Earl, we're sitting in his house. First time I ever met him personally. And I go to his house. He gets me fucking baked. Like I never smoked no shit like this before. Baked, kind of. You know what I'm saying? And he gets me so baked. We're sitting there talking. His dogs are all leaning up on me and shit, hanging out. One's in between my legs. I'm petting one. One's kissing my neck. I'm so baked. Captain Stubing. I didn't even realize. And all of a sudden he looks over because he's pretty big too. Dogs, get the fuck away from him, man. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm fucking stoned. But anyway, I go to Big Earl and I said, this is what, and he told me about how you breed different cannabinoids, and what made me excited to have you on the show. I think more than just talking about seed breeding. And I said to him, he who breeds cultivars or cultivation or plants that have not just only THC in it, not just only CBD in it together, but maybe some CBG, which is the mother of all cannabinoids. We know that's where it gets its start, but keep a couple percentage in there. I want to mix. I want all the cannabinoids. I want all the benefits that plant has to offer. I love THC. Don't get me wrong. Give it to me. I love smoking it, but I want a balance. I want like 10% THC, 6% CBD, maybe 2s and 3s of some other cannabinoids that I like. Some CBC maybe on one strain. We're starting to see them back. We're starting to breed these cannabinoids back into the plant, or we never tested for them and knew they were in there. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Everybody wants their 37, 40% THC because they just want to get baked. I love getting high. I'll get high with the best of you. I want a balance though. I want a strain when I'm at home that gives me all the benefits what that plant has to offer. And when Big Earl told me that you do stuff like this, got me fired up, because there's breeders out there that are understanding the plant better than ever, better than any scientist could right now, because you've been doing it for 20 plus years, 30 years, or some of the OG years. And, I'm excited to hear about some of these plants you maybe come with later on, maybe in the future, that have, I know you're on the THC project again, but I'd like to talk to you more about the different cannabinoids you can.
Well, I have a bunch of those, man. I have cuts of those. That's kind of one of the things I keep still to this day. So, I mean, that's something I'll always have, but it's not. Again, when I'm hunting through seeds, it doesn't necessarily mean it's all THC. It's like I have, a gene pool where I'm doing like 60% THC, some CBG, and then things that are just multiple aspect, ratios.
Yeah, because I mean, the ratios to me, like you see all these companies now making, I don't want to dog them out. I'm trying not to dog anybody, but different types of edibles with all with different cannabinoids in them now. But that stuff's not coming from the plant. That stuff's not being taken from the plant. No way. They ain't making enough of that. You know what I'm saying? I want it from the plant. I don't want synthetic.
You want a full spectrum plant product.
100%. I want, and then especially when some of you peeps out there can make hash with all that too. You're talking about the true medical benefits of cannabis for people that need the other cannabinoids. And you have these cuts, which are amazing, but I think the general population that use cannabis don't understand all the cannabinoids yet. Some are learning. Yeah. Some are learning. And as we learn more and we educate more on these cannabinoids, these minor cannabinoids, some of these are going to become major cannabinoids, because you'll be able to grow what you want eventually. If you can breed enough into these cannabinoids to where you get a balance of stuff, that person, I said, Earl, didn't I say this? That person will be very rich person, and not just in money, but in life. Because then you understood the plant better than anybody, and you gave the medicine to the people that want to breed and want to grow it and will appreciate that one day for the THCV that maybe somebody needs to lose weight, for appetite suppressant, or maybe CBC for cancer fighting, and maybe for just CBG for digestion. Maybe somebody has digestion. Maybe we don't need to take a fucking antacid every day. We could smoke a fucking strain that has the CBG in there for it. That's what I'm kind of saying. And I'm proud that there's some breeders out there that understand the plant better than most and are doing things this way. And I hope I see more in the future where we can buy seeds from breeders like yourself that have the different cannabinoids that we can get. It might not be the projected percentage that you're doing, but if I can get 2, 3, 4, 5% on some of these cannabinoids, I'd be happier than fucking anything, man. I'm waiting for that day.
Like somebody listening that says, "Hey, I want to start using these other cannabinoids." Do you have a seed that you would recommend for them that you have out right now?
Oh man, what's available through? You'd have to look on Seeds Here Now. DC Seed Exchange has quite a few of them. Neptune, Seed Bank. I think those are the three places that you can find most of the multi-cannabinoid varieties. Like I have a lot of Varen or CBG or CBD rich stuff there.
Nice.
Or you can hit me up as well at SeattleChronicSeeds@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Your handles, baby. Tell me your handles. So because I want to talk more when we get you back. If you come back on Burp in the Bag, if you want, I would love for you to talk more about that. The last 5 minutes, what we talked about. I would really appreciate you educating me more on cannabinoids. I would love it.
Yeah, I got a ton of them, man. And I again, it's just it's crazy because it's something that I do out of, just love, because a lot of the cannabinoids I'm working with, they don't necessarily vibe well with me. And so a lot of them I just pass out to people who they do work with. And so it's just a labor of love for the most part. But that's kind of why I'm moving.
I love it. Thank you so much, man. Because we get breeders like you that do that. It's just going to help the whole industry out medically and what people need. So I mean, kudos, man. I think it's wonderful. I can't wait to talk more about it with you someday. So, and get to meet you too. But throw out some more of your tags for us.
So, I mean, mostly you can just get me at SeattleChronicSeeds.com or Seattle Chronic Seeds on Instagram. SeattleChronicSeeds@gmail.com. That's where you can reach me.
Nice.
Captain Stubing, man, I want to say this is a big honor to have you on the show. Big Earl, why don't you let's not end the show yet and do our normal ending. I know you probably want to say a couple words to Captain Stubing here, so go ahead.
No, do you find people are there's more of a demand for those cannabinoids now? Is some of the education out there getting out there, or are you going to THC out of something where you're like, I need to advance this, or is that because the market's not really demanding some of your other artwork that you're creating?
I just think I've been so fixated on it for so long. Like I have a huge gene pool created for that. I'm just kind of diving back into it lightly. But honestly, it's more for myself. It's like, again, I kind of had to take a step back and really look at the plant and find what works best for me. And right now, I need something to kind of, calm me the fuck down. So it's finding the THC dominant stuff that's super terpy and just, works well. And in all honesty, it's kind of finding what bodes well, I think, in versus whatever today's hype is, honestly, and just trying to find and show people really what I think in the next 6-7 months, like, what a dedicated hunt can bring up.
Yeah. Oh man, and if you get good seeds, I'm not saying you'll find the very best, right? But if you can hunt 10 or 20 seeds, and you get a good, genetic, and even if you're losing half those to males, you can find a pretty good fucking, expression of whatever you're trying to get, usually, at least in my experience. And there's nothing more fun than finding that one that you really vibe with. Like, even when other people maybe don't vibe with it a little bit, it's like, yes, this is why I hunt.
I know. Yep, exactly. I don't care if it looks kind of funky or something. Like people are like, it's all right. And I'm like, no, it works for me. So,
It's that fire. It's not all right, bro. What are you talking about?
Well, Captain Stubing, man, we appreciate you on, man. Really do appreciate you sharing that knowledge and that wisdom and that little bit of mentorship and coaching for anybody out there that wants to learn how to breed and make some seeds. And Big Earl, what do we got to do, man, when we really, 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 really need to take care of that plant and go off on that cruise ship for a little bit? What do we need?
Well, all I would say is we know that we always need more CalMag, no matter what. So Add the CalMag. You'll get extra any syllable you want that isn't. It might not even be in weed right now. CalMag's going to enhance that shit.
Everybody out there in the world, we love you. Don't forget the CalMag. Peace. Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.